still in there.
Right?
Yeah, I was just in the back.
Do you also?
I can't stand it. You get up in your face. Tell me about it.
The image won't change on there once you've turned it off and
Yeah.
put it back on. As long as the green circle when it says live, then you're live.
Oh, okay.
Alright, can you understand? Alright then. That being said, are there any final comments for the candidate before we decide to vote? Do you have any other more questions for us before we vote?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, no, thank you.
What?
Feedback. Are you doing feedback now? I'm just curious.
I can do that.
Yeah, we can do feedback now. So you don't have any questions for us, just making sure?
No, not so.
Alright, so one of the things we discussed was time commitment. Well, it's not this board's determine what you can and can't do. Just a word that you might be stretching yourself a bit too thin. We understand you definitely do have a passion when it comes to SGA, and believe me, I know your work ethic. We've worked together before in Senate, and you were always on top of that. But the role does require a lot, and we are where they're trying to be a bit lower on how much you would think. Even for myself as chair here, I had a day where I had no school. I had Tuesdays with no class. I dedicated all that time to sport. Even with dropping class, it was still an incredible amount of work. So just being aware that one day may not be enough to just kind of put everything in, and just to keep that in mind. Any other feedback points? Anyone would like to give it? All right. With that being said, I'd like to introduce JL 17-1920, which is confirmation of Patrick Reed as the Executive Vice President. As stipulated in the bylaws, this motion will require a 2/3 vote of the entire membership, so at least 6 members will have to vote for yes for this confirmation to pass through. With that being said, is there a motion on the floor?
Move to approve JL 17-1920. Second.
All right, would anyone like to register any abstentions? All right, all in favor, please raise your hands now. All opposed? 6-4, 1 against, 1 abstaining, 0 not present, and the motion carries.
Yeah, okay. You're EVP.
Thank you.
Yay!
What?
She's like,
Oh, I don't have to do
you
anything.
don't have to do nothing, just sit.
I need a video
You
on
gotta
this.
memorize.
Do you want me to take a video?
Yes, you do.
I haven't memorized, so I don't have to.
Wait, I don't have to think.
Do you want me to video?
I need
Do you want it on the live?
It's on the live.
It's on the live stream.
I mean,
Oh,
yeah, but that's not as
Do you
good.
have it memorized? No, you don't.
I have half of it memorized. Yeah.
Here enough?
It's like da 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 da.
Oh, or we can put it up on there.
You want to put up on
The
here?
light version of the app is
Yes,
live.
please, because I will, and then I can position it and be like I'm not staring. Okay. I don't need to raise my hand, right? Like I'm not.
If you memorize it, just type it into a
I raised
document.
mine.
You raise your hand, and I just like
Yeah.
stand there.
It's been a long time since I thought of compliment.
I'm excited. Like this is like you don't get to do this often.
Just type an oath and insert the drive for oath. It's in the drive.
Oh yeah, I swear.
I told you I can't spell.
Oh, is that?
Yeah.
Let's say because usually we get
That's fine. That's
Oh.
fine. Just fix it.
at the dinner.
All right, you ready?
Oh, it should be I state.
Authority Finance Board.
Huh?
It should- you
I
should say,
state your
I
name.
state your
Okay.
name. Yeah.
So you're gonna repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Patrick Reed,
Solemnly affirm
solemnly affirm
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the office of Executive Vice President
the office of Executive Vice President
of the UMBC Student Government Association
of the UMBC Student Government Association
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
promote and defend
promote and defend
the interest and well-being of
the interest and well-being of
UMBC's undergraduate students.
UMBC's undergraduate students.
Congratulations.
Okay, now you have to go over here.
I was just gonna say, is this the canvas talk? I've never
Okay, now I can switch it around because I did these earlier.
Alright, I guess I can stop. We're gonna go ahead and we're a bit behind schedule, so we'll move into our next one. First level of discussion, we have retrieval codes off-campus discussion. Ilse, since you brought this forward to us, would you like to go ahead and explain what's going on? And then we'll lead it to the class.
Sure. So I was contacted by Retriever Pods. If you guys remember, we allocated money for one of their competition things, CUPSI, They told us that they were going to be getting some funding from the English department, but we didn't really have specifics as to how much that money was and where it was going exactly. TY reached out and said that they wanted to reallocate money that we had given them for accommodations and move it to
Travel and registration.
travel and registration. However, since it was an off-campus event, we fund by head. And so we've had like discussions before regarding if we were going to allow off-campus clubs to allocate between line items. So, Tua, if you want to introduce yourself and then also explain better.
Hi, I'm Tua. We were given like $2,097 by SGA, by the Finance Board, for our cup seat. That money was for travel, travel, lodging, and registration, but only for the competing poets. We have 3 non-competing members that go. So I was wondering if I could move some of the money from lodging to registration and travel for the non-competing members, because we have funding from the English department that would be able to cover lodging.
Current finance board precedent stands is that we aren't allowing currently reallocations between events because we fund on a per person basis.
Okay.
So the main issue would be in reallocating funds brings it away from the per person basis that we're funding on. But since it's the first time that we've officially done a per person basis, that's why it's being brought to the board. That position currently stands, so it's the board's decision on how to move forward. But does anyone have any questions for the organization right now before we move into discussion?
For the money that you guys are getting from the English department, could that money just go towards, because that's not, like, doesn't have to be like run by us. So couldn't that money go towards your non-competing members, and then that way you would still have money, the money that we allocated for the competing members?
Oh yeah, it definitely could. I just have to, because for example, the money for the lodging it was not specified like which hotel we would have to stay at, so it would be not confusing, but would be like extra work to sort of coordinate that when picking the hotel. But yeah, I could definitely do that. I just figured it would be easier if I could use the finance board money towards this and then take the English department money and put it towards one specific thing instead of sharing it between.
Gotcha.
All right. Any other questions? All right, moving to discussion. Who'd like to start? I guess I will. I mean, if it can be done, I think we probably prefer that to keep in mind, since we do fund by the per person basis in order to shift from that. Ideally, all the funds would be funneled through, so that it's currently new carryover. So if you got the English department to drop it off in your carryover too, then you could spend it there directly how, instead of having to worry about funneling differently. Am I understanding that correctly, Scott? Or am I being dumb?
Could do that. I wouldn't be opposed to shifting our line items if it's easier for the English department, if it's still funded at a per person, at the same per person amounts, if that makes sense. So if the total of registration, lodging, and travel come to the same for each person, and they're just shifted to different line items, I think those still fall in line. The point of the per person cap is so that people don't get funded everybody at half and then fully pay for just a few less people, rather than preserving the line items. So.
Reallocating within the purpose.
Yeah. It's basically like you can't scam by asking for like 100 people and then only sending 50. So.
Are they asking to bring more people?
They're asking to bring more people, but they have funds to do that with, and they want to reorganize our funds to make it easier for them when they're doing that. So
So if it's the same or less, that would be fine per person. Or same or more people go.
Thoughts on that?
If it's the same number of people going, how could it be the same amount per person if they're moving down?
If one person got $33 for lodging, 33 for travel, and 33 for registration. If that still was $99 going just for lodging and registration, or just lodging, there is still $99 to that person.
But did you do it as a per person rate per line item? Or did you do it at a per person rate for the whole thing?
I think it was prioritized by line item because that's how it was set in our statutes.
Yes.
But I think since it's per person, each person gets the same amount of money. Basically.
So you're saying it'd be okay to reallocate as long as each person ended up with the same amount of money? So you got like, if I mentioned this with like 10 people, all with the 33 in each section, as long as there was 33 taken from all 10 people to put in, then that'd be okay.
Or if they want to stretch that to more people, then still divide that equally. We're still giving them the same amount of money, and they're just putting in more, so that doesn't mess with us either.
It's a slippery slope, right? Like, so if you allow for reallocation between line items,
Yeah, which
for this, I mean, you do allow for reallocation between line items, right? In on-campus events.
The point of my philosophy is if they're able to fundraise, I don't want to penalize that
Sure.
by making it more difficult to the
Yeah,
English
yeah.
department.
Yeah, I agree. Not that it matters.
I think one of the things also to remember is that when they asked us for money, they were asking for everybody, including the non-competing members. And I don't know if we had money for everybody to go, but we like had a discussion about whether or not we were gonna fund our non-competing members. So yeah, you can do the like per person thing, but if we're like funding non-competing members when we had a discussion that. Because the money where this like would go to would be the 3 non-competing members,
Yes.
right?
Oh. The English department can't fund that?
No, the English department
is
can.
funding.
Yeah, the English department is funding part of it. But again, like it would be more difficult to that a nice question going on. It would be difficult to like take the English department money and split it up between travel for the non-competing members, lodging and registration. But it would be easier to take all the money under and like book hotel rooms while we take the finance board money to fund travel and registration for the non-competing members.
So they're trying to bring people.
But we're not.
Yes, you would be.
By this reallocation, we would
Yes, you would be.
be paying them.
There's an
For the non-competing members, you would be paying for them.
So,
What about what you originally said?
yeah, so I think we're right on that English round up. My current thought is that because the board had priorly voted to not fund the competing members, it's more of an issue where we just have to maintain that, and that we can only fund for those. So I think in this case, we will have to, I use the last word, I'm going to go to maintain our statutes as is. I will, the board might show something different, of course, but that's my first opinion is that, just because I'd like to maintain that we will only fund people who are competing for the trip. If it was any other competition, I'm pretty sure. That's where I'm at.
Is it possible for the English department to put the money into the club's account or?
Oh yeah, no, they pay with their credit card, so
So
they
it's their
don't.
transfer?
No, they're not like, they're not doing a transfer to an
Yeah.
account, they're just buying stuff off the credit card.
Yeah.
So,
Scott?
I think it's fine if we're paying the same amount of, basically the same amount to them, and the English department is giving money to cover the other people. It's not like, forget which Supreme Court case, but money
well, so then why would you need to do a reallocation?
to make it easier for the English department.
Oh,
Because they have to individually
The
pay
initial
for
proposal to do the travel and lodging registration for all 3. What they rather do is have the department do the lodging for everyone who's going to competition, and then use the finance board funds for just the registration and travel
I
for everyone.
understand, so it's just, yes, I understand what you're saying. It's to ease
Yeah.
It's just to pay for things easier.
Yeah, I understand. On paper, it looks one way, but in reality, I understand.
So how are you guys ready to vote on this, or do you still want to?
We all have questions?
You can't blame me, I was hungry, okay, watch out.
You guys
I
understand?
understand. Do you understand?
I'm a little confused.
So,
It's bureaucracy.
here, so I did it just quick for me, so let me tell you what I understand. So, the English department has said, we'll give you this money to go to Cup C. But because of how you all allocated money, in certain line items, in order to use that money, the English department would have to do like, how many non-competing members? They'd have to do travel for these 3 competing members, lodging for these 3 competing members, registration. But so that's 3 different transactions, which I don't know if you guys understand, like you don't, because I don't. But using a credit card at this institution, the amount of paperwork and backup, it's a pain. It's a pain. It's a lot. So it would be easier on the department if they just had to do 1 transaction for lodging or 1 transaction for travel, and to be able to facilitate that. What River Poets is asking if you all can just shift some money to these other things from one line item to another, so that they can use this money from the English department to pay for 1 thing completely. Not changing the amount of money you are actually giving them. And in the end, you wouldn't actually be funding these non-competing members, because they're getting, it's all sort of in the wash.
Yeah, it's a special circumstance, and considering that not many or necessarily get support from departments, I think it's better not to
Rock the boat.
Yeah, and get a strongly worded, processes, yeah, you know what I mean? So.
Does that help make it a little more sense of it? We're trying to make it easier on the English department admins or whoever, who has the P card over there, so that they don't have to do 3 transactions and then do 3 backups for those transactions.
And then be like, oh,
It's a lot, and it is a lot, and then write 3 memos for those transactions. It's a lot to use your credit card.
Sacrifices you for
Oh my God. Yes, you are. I volunteered in that tribute.
Alright, so, is there any more discussion on this topic?
Do you want to vote on
Alright.
legislation?
Well, so no, this would be, do we want to vote to uphold our statutes, or do we want to vote to allow this reallocation? Because the way you can see right now is a coordination that I was not sign off on it until it was brought before the board, but clearly most of this was ready to sign off on it, so that's just what this is. Yes?
I don't want to change the precedent of that, I would just rather make an exception for this one instance, because this is a special circumstance.
Considering departmental support.
It's just like education.
Alright.
I think you have ground to stand on, right? I do, I think you have ground.
So, is there even anything to vote on since the allocation form was sent along?
So I haven't signed off the allocation yet. So the reason why this is brought before is because in the event where one person does not sign off on the allocation form, but the other one does, so if the liaison agrees and the chair doesn't, or the chair agrees and the liaison doesn't, it goes before the board for discussion. That's what this is. So you'd either just vote to allow the reallocation or to not allow the reallocation. Precedent, if you'd like to discuss that, I'm happy to write up an FBL to change stuff. But that's not a time for discussion for the current ones. The only thing that's going to be brought for a vote is, do we want to allow this reallocation or not? Brian?
Can we vote on that?
Yes. You guys ready to vote?
Move to vote.
All right.
Just make sure you read out the options though, just in case,
Option A is to allow the reallocation to occur. Option B is to not allow the reallocation to occur. All in favor for option A, allowing the reallocation to occur, please raise your hands now. This is pro allocation.
We're just making sure.
Yeah, it should be total.
Yeah.
All in favor of option B, which is against the allocation, please raise your hand now. This is the anti-allegation. Or allocation. All right. 6-4, 1 against, 1 abstaining, none not present. This allocation, reallocation will vote.
Yeah.
All right.
Got it in my
Alright,
book.
so sign the form.
Yep.
We have voted, so now you're obligated.
Just bring the form over and I'll sign it. If you don't have to wait you, I'll be in the office tomorrow.
Yay!
All right. That being said, we have a second discussion. This one was brought forward by Zane, so Zane.
Actually need to use the restroom really bad, so.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and call 5.
Wait, I can do it.
Well, Zane introduced it, so he has to be. If we meant.
I mean, yeah, I just have some like.
All right, we're gonna have a 5-minute recess. Please reconvene back at 6:50. Yes. The screen on the side doesn't go on, but it goes there, so.
So
Do you want me to?
Yeah, turn off the live stream.